Welcome back, everybody. We're going to do our week 5 start sits. We wanted to start this one off a little bit differently than we've done any of the other ones. We wanted to give you guys a little bit of a review of our picks from last week. Went pretty well. If you listen to us, you really probably only missed on like 2 people from what I'm seeing on the stats we picked up. Sam, why don't you kick it off? You read through the starts and how we did.
Yeah, the starts, we really only had one major miss. We had Jaden Daniels, who scored 25 fantasy points last week. We had Tony Pollard, who saved us with a garbage time touchdown, but he ended with 18.8 fantasy points. Our biggest miss was Cam Akers, where he wasn't really even the primary back when Mixon was out for Houston, so he's droppable in pretty much all league formats at this point, but he only scored 5.3 points. We had Terry McLaurin, who picked up 18.2 points and was kind of tied to that Jaden Daniels performance and kind of what we think will kind of continue as the season goes on. And then our last two were Khalil Shakir, who finished with 10 points, but he did get banged up in that game a little bit, so he missed a little bit of a stretch of time there, and they just got absolutely blown out by the Ravens. So it was kind of like a lost cause at a certain point. And then Dallas Goedert didn't do anything crazy, but he finished with a respectable 13 points, which for the tight end position this year is always very solid at this rate.
Yeah, anything you can get over double digits from a tight end, you're usually happy. I think this year. For the sits, you'll see some things tie in here. We had you guys bench Richardson if you listened, and if you listened, you avoided an injury, which was obviously really handy. He came in at 5.24 points. We had Rashad White, who only put up 10.4. J.K. Dobbins, who had an off night with 9.2. Then we had Garrett Wilson come in at 7.1. He did not have a very good game and continues that trend for the season so far. And then we had the anomaly, which was Michael Pittman, which I'm pretty sure if Richardson didn't get hurt, it probably would have been a bad game for him. But since Flacco came in, he actually managed to catch some balls, and he put up a nice 17.3. And he was the only miss out of all this. And lastly, we had Mark Andrews in there who just put up donuts, which seems to be a growing trend over in that Ravens offense where anybody outside of a running back doesn't catch a ball. So pretty good calls last week. We're going to see if we can continue that trend and stick the landing this week with our week 5 picks. You want to kick us off with QB?
Yeah, for quarterback, our start for the week is Joe Flacco. Last year, he came in for the Browns and was like a gunslinger and really got the ball out to Amari Cooper and had some pretty big games last year. Now, Anthony Richardson is doubtful for tomorrow's game, and we really like this matchup against the Jags. They're allowing, on average, 273 yards per game, and we think Flacco is just going to air it out with Pittman and Josh Downs. We think that entire receiving offense might have a little bit of a lift this week. As for our bench, we're going to be benching Dak Prescott against the Steelers. The Steelers are just showing that they're one of the best defenses in the league. Again, we're coming with the Cowboys not looking really great this year on offense or defense. They're just not a very fantastic team this year. Brandon Cooks is on the IR now. Really the only weapons there that are serviceable, well, obviously CeeDee Lamb is great, but outside of him, really the only person Dak can go to is Jake Ferguson. There's just not a lot going on for this offense right now, and against a tough matchup, I'd rather find someone else that I could throw in a QB.
Yeah, I benched him this week. So I'm abiding by our thoughts here. This is before we even set this up for the Thursday night game. I benched him for Kirk Cousins. Not Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield. Don't regret it. Had a really good game. Okay, moving into the wide receivers. Coming off a hot game, we're going to say you should continue to start Jaden Reed. He's going against the Rams this week. The Rams defense is atrocious. They're sitting in the second worst pass defense, allowing 385 yards in the air on average per game, which is obviously not particularly good. So he's definitely someone you want to look to start this week. And on the flip side, we're going to be benching someone who has been hot since Andy Dalton has come in, and that's Deontay Johnson doing what people expected him to do this year if Bryce Young could throw the ball to a receiver. He's been hot, but the Bears' defense, their pass defense specifically, has been disgusting. They're only allowing 175 yards in the air, and they've only allowed 2 passing touchdowns through the first 4 games this season. So they've been off to a really, really strong start, and I would be avoiding a receiver if you can. Look to start somebody else. As far as running backs, moving in, the start that I didn't think we'd ever call at all this year, but he's coming off a hot game. And they're going against the Panthers' run defense, which is really bad, and that's DeAndre Swift on the Bears. The Panthers' defense is allowing 148 yards on the ground, and they've given up 6 rushing touchdowns through 4 games. I think Swift is going to have an open field, just run all over the place, and I think he's going to continue his hot trend from last week. And then our bench is going to be Breece Hall. Coming off his worst game of the year last week, and probably his worst game that I can remember over the course of the close history. He's playing against the Vikings, and the Vikings' run defense is also at the top of the list. They've only allowed 1 rushing TD this whole season. If you can avoid benching Breece Hall, my guess is you probably can't because he's probably in your first-round pick. But if you can avoid him this week, this is a week I would look to avoid him, especially coming off last week where the Jets' offense just looked anemic, and the Vikings' defense is good.
Yeah, my only concern with the Breece Hall is the London series. I feel like it always produces like weird games and weird outcomes, regardless of how teams are performing going in. So we'll see. We'll probably wake up to the news that Breece Hall ripped off some 80-yard touchdown run or something. But
I mean, I'll take it. I have him in my one league. I don't have a choice but to start him. But if I
yeah,
had someone else, I'd probably look to bench him.
yeah, no, it's not looking great for Breece right now with the Jets, but. As far as tight ends go, our start for the week, we're going to keep picking on the Rams here. They're just banged up, and they have a terrible defense. And we're starting to see that Tucker Kraft is really emerging as the tight end 1 in Green Bay. It seems like Jaden Reed is the go-to wide receiver. Romeo Doubs is suspended this week because he's causing issues in the locker room. I think Kraft is going to see a nice uptick in volume there. And I think he's got a pretty safe floor, especially at a very weak tight end position, just overall.
Yep.
As for a sit, Brock Bowers is coming off another kind of disappointing week here. And now he's playing the Broncos. And the Broncos, very rarely let their opponents score double-digit points. So I just don't think this is a great matchup. Devontae Adams isn't playing, so I think Brock Bowers is going to get all the attention of Mr. Pat Surtain, and I don't think it's going to be a big week for anyone in the Las Vegas offense here.
Yeah, he's not in a good situation. Broncos have stopped everybody they've gone up against over the air and on the ground, really, when it comes down to it. Their defense has been really, really good. As you stated last week, I think you said Surtain's just going to take pass interferences and not allow anybody to get any yards on him when it comes down to it. But yeah, I think it's a pretty good list. I'm looking forward to how it looks next week when we review the results, because I think we're going to nail this one pretty hard, guys. So we hope that you guys are listening. Our results from last week kind of speak for themselves, and we're just going to look to continue that trend. All right, and we'll see you guys in next week's Start Sit video.